Hey everybody, and welcome back to another book review. So I just finished a fun book that is more probably children's lit or kind of falls in that range, and that is Lay and the Fire Goddess by Malia Manakua. Um, and it is, as I said, I'm trying to follow some of the month themes for this year. And so it is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And so Malia Manakua is from the Pacific Islands. And so this story is about a young girl who is part Hawaiian, or she's like half Hawaiian, and she frequently goes back and she visits her tutu or her grandmother in Hawaii. And so the whole story is, just your usual teenage angst. She doesn't want to really kind of follow her family tradition. She doesn't want to hear the stories. She doesn't want to remember the stories, or even believe in the stories. And she just wants to be a regular teenager, and she's been struggling because her supposed best friend back home in Colorado has decided that they're not best friends anymore, and that she's going to be friends with some other girl in her class. And so she's kind of upset and annoyed that she has to go to Hawaii. It's like a thing that her grandmother and her parents have agreed on, is that she'll spend like a month in Hawaii every summer. And so she's like upset that she gets to spend a month in Hawaii, and she's just kind of moody the whole time, and she's trying to also prove to her friends back home that like she's having a fun vacation, because they're going to Paris and they're going all over to these other parts of the world. She's like, I just have to go visit my grandma in Hawaii. And so she wants to make it seem like she's having this grand big Hawaiian vacation when she's not. And so the story really kicks off. It kind of reminds me a lot of the Percy Jackson series, kind of very similar vibes in terms of, young kid discovers they have powers and just, they have an adventure. Kind of same thing here, except that she doesn't really have powers. She's just learning more about her family and her family's stories and her family's past, understanding that there are different beings in Hawaiian culture that have been protecting her family. And so when she insults the goddess Pele, who is who lives on the volcano that's near her grandmother's house, it starts this chain of reactions of different experiences that she has. And so in the story, I really, like I said, I liked it because of the Percy Jackson vibes. I'm a big Percy Jackson fan. And I was kind of excited because I saw that this kind of is supposed to have similar vibes, and it definitely does. Nice, easy, quick read, at least for me. I think for a younger kid or a younger generation, it might be a little bit slower, but it's still a decently quick book, easy read. And for this is the author's kind of like debut book, and so like I thought she did really well. Writing wise, I was definitely engaged in the story, like wanted to know what was happening next. My biggest complaint is that, so like at the beginning of the story, Lay, or Anna, as she's called in the story, so she's one of she's got two names. So like her full name is Leilani and her middle name is Anna, and so that's what she goes by when she's in Colorado, because she doesn't want people to kind of like get the Hawaiian thing. And she kind of talks about kind of being that in between of like, she's clearly a Hawaiian because like she looks Hawaiian, her hair's Hawaiian, but she also has a lot of Eurocentric features. And so when she's in Hawaii, people don't really like her because she's not Hawaiian. Which I thought was funny because I have a friend from high school, Lana, and her middle name is also Anne, or not Anna, but Anne, and her full name is Alani Kalakulile. And so I was just like, that's hilarious, because I literally know somebody that like has told me about this and about that feeling of like, I'm half, and so like here in the continental states, I don't really fit in because I look Hawaiian. But like if I go to Hawaii, I don't fit in there because I look, European. So I thought that was kind of funny, but she talks about that. But so at the beginning of the story, she's kind of angsty and just complaining, and the piece that kicks off the whole adventure is that she insults the goddess Pele, and so this like cave kind of like hole fissure thing like pops up, and she gets shoved down in it, and that's how she gets protected while she figures out what to do. And then she goes back and packs up a backpack and gets into it, like goes and finds the hole, and then walks through this hole with this bat who she discovers can talk and is like trying to help her and protect her and all this stuff. Cool, great. She gets out of the cave. Lei gets out of the cave, and when she gets out of the cave, she realizes that there's a lava flow that's heading basically right for her grandmother's house. And so she's like, oh my gosh, I gotta go back and warn my grandma. And so she's like, how do I get back? And then she just walks back through the woods. So she spends like 4 or 5 chapters in this cave, like dealing with, discovering how the cave works, and understanding that like she's gonna have to crawl and rely on different characters. All fine. Like it makes sense in the grand scheme of like plot devices. She's learning about Hawaiian culture, learning to trust that Hawaiian culture is not just, this thing that her grandma's been talking about, but like it's part of her blood. And then, she struggles to get out of the cave. But then as soon as she gets out of the cave, she walks back to her grandma's house through the woods, and then turns around and goes back up the mountain. I was like, so what was the point in being in the cave? Like, why are we wasting, like, literally wasted plot section? Like, it'd be different if she came out of the cave and then was like, oh my gosh, this thing is about to hit us, I have to work even harder. But no, she was just like, I'll just walk back through the woods. Then why did you walk through the cave to begin with? Why was that even a section of the plot? It was one of those things where I was like, it really could have been edited out or edited differently to fit in with the rest of the story, because the rest of the story was perfectly fine. It was just that section of chapters that I was just like, what is happening here? So yeah, like that's, I think, probably my biggest complaint, and it's not a big complaint at all, because the rest of the story was fine. There is a second book that's just come out. I can't quite remember if it was 25 or 24, because the first book came out in 23. But I'm very interested because it definitely left on like it wrapped up, but it kind of still left on a cliffhanger of like, oh, what is she gonna do next? Because she's like, oh, I have a couple more weeks in Hawaii, and like I've got to do stuff to continue to save my friends and my family and stuff. And so I'm curious enough to read the next book. There's only 2 books out, so I'll be very curious to see what happens with that. So I've added it to my list. I'm going to try and get a hold of it and read it. So yeah. But yeah, overall, because of that stupid section of chapters, I give it a 3. I want to give it higher, but it just made me so upset. I was just like, why did we waste all of this time with this? It didn't make sense. I really don't like when authors have just like random plot nonsense. And I was talking with my best friend about it, and the book she's reading, she was like, same thing. Like, she was like, it was like there was just like a random set of chapters, random information that was like hit for so long, and then it just got thrown away at the last minute. So yeah. But yeah, like I said, a 3 overall. Really good book for young readers. Lei is coming out of 6th grade, going into 7th grade, so kind of middle school, and so I think this would be a good book for like a 5th or a 6th grader. Just reading wise, like I just felt like the comprehension level was lower than what would be like for a 7th or an 8th grader, in my opinion, and that's as a person who teaches 8th grade. So if you're a parent who follows me, great book for 5th or 6th graders, maybe 7th graders. I just don't think 8th graders will enjoy it necessarily as much. That said, it also does kind of fall more in the PG range with language, no like actual curse words, but definitely a lot of covers. Like the bat character always says "what the flap," and which I think is hilarious because she's a bat, but there's a couple times where at least in the way I was reading, I was like, ooh, that depending on how you take that, could run a risk of other language. So if you're a family that doesn't do language or anything like that, that would be like probably your only hang up. But overall, I think it's a perfectly fine book. No language or anything like that. A little bit of peril and blood and injury, but nothing super violent or crazy. So there you have it. Lay and the Fire Goddess by Malia Manakua. I'm probably butchering her name. I am so sorry. But again, really good book. Love it for Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And also just loved reading another angle of a story. I think a lot of times people are just like, oh, Hawaii, Moana, which the book actually makes fun of the fact that, Disney did this whole Moana thing, and it's like, yeah, that was nice. It's not Hawaiian. So that was kind of fun to have the author kind of poke at Disney several times. It wasn't just Moana. Like, there was also a mention of Mulan and a couple other things. So that's fun, but yeah, really great book. Look forward to reading the next book in the series when I get it. Yeah, so as always, like, comment, share, subscribe if you so choose. Thank you to Cheshire's Top Cat, my husband, for sending some folks my way. So if you're here for the first time, welcome. And hopefully you all love reading as much as I do. And I look forward to seeing you in the next book review. Bye!